live in a world that's highly anxious already, and we live in a world with so much information, and much of that information feeds our fears and our anxieties. So I want you to see, you turn on the news, and what does the news do? The news tells you about all the things you ought to be afraid of. And so it feeds anxiety in the greater community, really in the global community. And when we get anxious, we start behaving at less and less mature levels. Anxiety is the intense emotional energy that is triggered by a perceived or real sense of danger. So when there is a threat, anxiety shows up. Anxiety is not just about worry, and anxiety is not just about a phobia you have. Sometimes when people hear the topic of anxiety, they say, oh, well, that's about, I'm scared of heights. Well, it applies to that, but anxiety is anything and any sense of threat that's either real or it's perceived. And there are two kinds of anxiety. There's acute anxiety and there's chronic anxiety. The definition of acute anxiety is a real threat happening right now. Anxiety is going to show up in you physically. And so answering the question, where does anxiety show up in me? Because if I can figure that out, your body is going to tell you when you're anxious. So my anxiety starts with a knot in my gut that moves up into a queasiness in my chest. And then a fourth place of awareness is to grow in your awareness of what meaning am I making, or what is the story I'm telling myself. One of the biggest anxiety producers in our lives, folks, are the stories we make up in our head. I started out by saying, when that person across the room at work looks at you that funny way and you get anxious. Why do you get anxious? Because you make up a story in your head about what that look is about. Oh, I know why she looked at me that way. Well, what if that's not true?